This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are back. By the way, I tugged my shirt. That's a drink, Mark.
That's one.
You got to take one shot. Is it... Now, are we going to do the drinking game of do they take a shot? Or, like, if they have a beer, do they just take a swip?
Depends on if...
The sip of the beer.
Depends on how your Christmas went and how much you feel like getting alcohol poisoning and going to the hospital.
Because I'm going to... Without even noticing, I'm just going to start pulling my shirt. That's another one right there. I just did it on purpose. Pulling it forward. That's a third one. So, our new drinking game of whatever... I touch my shirt because I do it without even noticing during these podcasts. But welcome in to the Onside Kick, where we talk about NFL and everything going around in it. And Mark, before I do the housekeeping, man, do we have a show today. We're talking about the NFL draft. Justin Herbert, the top quarterback, just said, nah, I'm here to play school. And I'm going to go back to said Oregon
really
Ducks.
Confused Jameis. He's like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're here to play school?
Cardell's even like, wait, what? We play school? I said we didn't play school, but we're going to talk about...
Was that Cardell Jones?
Yeah, it was Cardell.
Oh, I thought that was Jameis.
No, Jameis Winston was the crab legs.
Oh, he's got,
Yeah, he was the crab legs.
He also had all over the world.
Assault. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking
Jameis Winston had a lot more bigger problems
all over the world.
We're not here to play school. That was Cardell Jones, who I can't remember if he's on the Bills or the Chargers. I think he's on the Chargers.
Yeah, I think he left the Bills.
In their backup stable behind Phillip Rivers. But we're going to be talking about NFL draft. We're going to also take a look at the Seahawks, another playoff team that we're going to look to see if they can be dark horses in the NFC. And then we're going to take a look at Joe Flacco. Will he be traded? Who can trade for him? We're going to look at those teams of who could trade for Joe Flacco after this NFL season. Then we're going to close everything out, making our picks. But before we get into everything, make sure to help support us on patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. That's where we cannot do what we do for you each and every week without the support of our patrons. You can also support us by getting yourself an MVP t-shirt. Not this one. This is a Bob Ross one, not the MVP one. But it's kind of the same. It's black.
And Bob Ross has an MVP tattoo. So
yeah, he does. He has it right across his chest. The big old
Unfortunately,
MVP.
he's wearing a shirt.
So you can't see it. So you can get yourself a t-shirt. That's down below in the description as well. You can also get it at mostvaluablepodcast.com. And make sure to rate and review the podcast on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. It would be mucho appreciated. But Mark, let's get into it. We're going to start NFL draft. Justin Herbert announcing this past weekend in a statement on Twitter that I will read the whole thing. It says, the University of Oregon has been a special place for me for as long as I can remember. Words will never be able to express my feelings of gratitude towards the people that have built and maintain our program. What I have come to realize, though, is that nothing could pull me away from the opportunities that we have in front of us. As we prepare for our bowl game, I would like to ensure that there are no distractions outside of this game. My commitment to my teammates, our coaches, Duck fans, and the University of Oregon has never been stronger. I'll be returning to the University of Oregon for my senior year. Go Ducks. I want to ask you this. How does this affect the draft? Because that was my first thought of what does this mean? Because the top quarterback of this year, top quarterback in most of our minds. I know that Brandon had Dwayne Haskins at number 1 on our last big board. I had Justin Herbert as the number 1 quarterback on my big board. What do you think this does to the NFL draft? Justin Herbert going back to school next year will not be entering the NFL draft.
The first thing I need to say, I'm always a fan of players going back and finishing their education. I'm always a fan of that. Yeah, I'm always a fan of you finishing your education because that's something that you can attain, that's something you can have and you can take with you. The exception, and it's not really an exception. I want to put that out there because many times I've said that players should finish their school. And I'm a firm believer for those who want to talk about these players unionizing and stuff like that and getting health care and things like that. I think if that's something they should get or get paid, then you should be required to finish your education. You should finish it. I'm a big fan of getting your college education. With that being said, when you're the number one rated quarterback coming out of this draft, when you're probably going to go in the top 10 and make millions of dollars, you go. It's that simple to me. You go. I don't understand. I mean, and I don't know what his major is. Maybe he really, really loves that subject, and he figures he can't possibly go back like a Larry Fitzgerald or something like that. But he would easily be a
top 10 pick. He was top 7 last time we did our mock.
Exactly. Like, he's going to go. If the draft was right now, he's going to go at 8 or 9 to the Giants or Jacksonville Jaguars.
Unless the team trades up.
Yeah. One of those two teams.
Really digging into that Jaguars.
Right? As soon as I said it, I'm like, oh, that's right. They hate that. Yeah. Jaguars. Unless Jacksonville decides to trade, and skip the Giants, or Denver at 12 says, no, we want one of these guys. Because this is a perfect storm. There's nobody else out there who's really going to be taken. Maybe Dwayne Haskins, but that's debatable.
Well, that's another, and this topic I knew is just going to be, it's going to be a lot of, like, there's a lot of places we can go. It's kind of like Super Smash in your kind of character tree of like, ooh, I can go here, I can go there, I can upgrade this, upgrade that. This is this conversation. Dwayne Haskins is an interesting one to me because how does this affect the draft? Dwayne Haskins still hasn't made a decision.
Yeah, he should be more likely to go now, you would think.
Well, and that's what I would think, but I got to look at my text messages.
But maybe they just really want to crowd next year's quarterback class.
And that's a thing. Like, I know that Justin Herbert, as of right now, Tua will be next year unless Tua decides to stay.
Which he could, because he'll be what, redshirt junior next year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. Or no, he'll be a redshirt sophomore. Yeah. Redshirt sophomore.
I thought he was a redshirt sophomore this year.
No, you're right. No, he's a true sophomore this year. He was a freshman last year when they won the national title game.
That works.
So he'll be a junior. He'll be able to come out. Mortensen, I can't find the tweet that Brandon sent me, but it was Mortensen who said this. He goes, Dwayne Haskins from the College Advisory Board got a first-round evaluation or a first-round projection from them. And that Dwayne Haskins is going to talk to coaches at the OSU. He's also going to talk to his family. Still intends to play in the Rose Bowl game.
He's losing his coach. He's losing Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer will not be there. Well,
Rose Bowl is Urban Meyer's final game.
The coach that they brought in was his coach for the first 3 games, so it's not that big of a loss. But he loses Urban Meyer.
But Urban Meyer is a top-tier college coach.
To me, this is a thing of like, we could talk about the teams it affects. I think it's easy. Like the Giants and Jacksonville. More so right now, Jacksonville, because they're behind the Giants. Do we trade up to get Haskins? Do we sit back and just let the Giants have? It's going to depend on a lot of teams are going to scout him.
Now you're sitting there, too, saying, well, we liked Herbert. We like Haskins maybe, but just maybe not as much.
They're going to look into if they haven't looked at Haskins, they're going to. And then the other thing is, if you're Haskins, do you stay or do you go? Because now it becomes like the thing we put on Justin Herbert of, like you said, finishing school is great. Like, I'm with you. I'd rather have him finish school than not finish school.
But these are millions of dollars to pass up.
I do understand that, too. And that's why I've never hated when someone has been like, I'm going to leave school and go and take my money, because that is money that I will never see within my lifetime. But with Dwayne Haskins, now does he come out and would easily be a top 10 pick, or does he stay and crowd next year's draft class even more?
Exactly. And the thing, too, is, for Herbert, he's taking a gamble on this of does he think he is Matt Barkley, Jake Locker, or does he think he's Andrew Luck? Because obviously he thinks he's Andrew Luck, where he's saying, my senior year, I'm going to do even better, and I'm going to keep my draft stock. Now, Andrew Luck would have been a first overall pick if he came out his junior year or his senior year.
He was the chosen boy. Ever, like the golden boy ever since it was.
Barkley would have came out the same time as Andrew Luck. Wasn't that what it is? And then that's why it was the same year Andrew Luck came out of the draft. I think. So many quarterback classes, it's hard to keep them all in line at this point.
I got you. I'll check while you keep talking.
With Barkley, he was going to be the number 1 overall pick potentially. He was going to be right up there, and then goes to senior year and falls round after round after round.
Matt Barkley would have been 2012, stayed and went 2013.
Yeah.
So he would have been the RG3 Andrew Luck draft class.
Exactly. And that would have been tough. He's not going to beat Andrew Luck, but he could have been that third quarterback taken.
But the difference in that is, to me, like, if you're going to stay, because like Matt Barkley might have said, hey, I'm not competing with Andrew Luck for the number one. And I've got, maybe there were scouts telling him, advisory board saying like, hey, you could be number one good. Like, but Andrew Luck is going to go number one. He might have said, hey, I'm going to stay, so I'll be number one next year and get some more money.
And for Barkley, too, he got hurt. And that ruined everything.
I mean, so has you've got Herbert, as he's had a collarbone in the past. He's gotten a deep shoulder contusion this year that he was dealing with.
It's just a risky move, you know?
And that's why, to me, I said this before on the Primetime Podcast. I'm going to say this again on the Primetime Podcast in about 2 weeks when Brandon and I take more of a look of, is it the right decision for Herbert? And I look at it, and I did this as a blind resume for Brandon. I won't do it for you. But Jake Locker, his stats, his junior into senior year, junior year, he was a 2,800-yard passer, dropped to 2,267. He was averaging about 7.1 per attempt, dropped to 6.8. 21-11 TD to INT, 17-9. And his completion percentage went down 3%. And you look at Herbert right now, he's got more passing yards, about 100 more than Locker had his junior season. He's averaging more yards per attempt. And he's around that a little bit higher of a completion percentage where Locker, like the stats are so similar. In my mind, I kind of, and I said this to Brandon, I kind of almost think like I've read this book before and I know how it ends. Yeah. I know how this book ends. You think I'm going to come back, improve my draft stock, and then you don't. Like you get drafted by the Titans and then you never pan out.
Yeah. And this is one of those times too where this really was the perfect year for whoever this number one quarterback is, because there are 3 teams.
Because I will make this clear, he is not going to be the number one quarterback. It is Tua Tagovailoa, and it is him at the top and him alone.
Although I will say,
I'll go out and say it.
I'm happy about it because I always say I don't trust Alabama quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm happy. Now I've got an alternative. But there are 3 quarterback needy teams in the top 15. You could maybe argue that Tampa Bay or Miami, which are also in the top 15, maybe you could make an argument that one of them is a quarterback needy team as well. But I'm not counting them. I'm saying the Giants, the Jaguars, and then the Denver Broncos. And I'm sorry to your Jaguar fans. You've gotten it in my head, and now every time I think about your name, I have to think of a different way to say it. But those are the 3 teams. And how many free agent quarterbacks do we really have? The Denver Broncos kind of swung and whiffed on one of them with Case Keenum. You're going to have Joe Flacco, we'll talk about later today. Nick Foles, maybe? But we've seen, we've read that book again.
Like Carson, you're talking about free agent.
I'm talking about free agent quarterback. Nick Foles will be a quarterback that you can get next year. But once again,
we've seen him with the wrong coach.
We've
and
read
Jeff
that
Fisher.
book.
Yeah,
we've read that book, and we know how it ended not well.
Here's another name I'm going to throw out there of how this could affect Kyler Murray. Like there are, and I know that you and I have voiced our opinion on this because of right now the consensus is that he's going to baseball. I would not waste a first-round pick on him. And I'm using the word waste because I know that there's a lot of NFL scouts that are like, he's a first-round grade. Here's the thing I wonder. I wonder if a team like the Giants, and I say the Giants particularly because Eli is not horrible. Like, I know Giants fans want to throw Eli under the bus, want to get rid of him as soon as possible. The Giants are the only quarterback-needy team I could see doing this year. Does a team like the Giants get ballsy enough to where they go, you know what, screw it. We're taking him. We're taking Kyler Murray right here. We're going to hold his draft rights for the year and see if he'll come play for us. Just in the chance that it doesn't pan out with baseball and he goes, I'm going to go play football.
I can't imagine anyone will do that in the first round. Unless you have like 4 first-round picks, you're not going to waste a first-round pick.
So the Raiders. The Raiders will take him
even
32nd overall with the Bears.
I said 4, not 3, so I don't know if the Raiders will do it either. I just don't think that you can take that big of a risk at this high up. But basically what's happening now is these teams towards the top, they don't have the ability to trade down. The teams that are, post the top 5 are sitting there going, great. Now none of these quarterbacks are going to be taken. So now everybody, those 10 guys that we had,
I'll say
now they're probably going to be gone.
The trade piece doesn't. The trade piece thing doesn't completely die yet. If Dwayne Haskins comes out after the because here's what I'm thinking with Dwayne Haskins. I'm thinking he's going to make his decision after the Rose Bowl, and
probably
what I'm leaning towards is I kind of agree with Brandon that he's going to stay also. But who knows? This decision by Herbert
inspire him.
Might say, hey, you know what? I got to retalk it. Hey, I got to go I got to go because I'm going to be the best quarterback in this draft class. The first one off the board where I won't be next year. So, this could change his thought process. But before this decision, I was kind of on board with Brandon, what will probably happen with Dwayne Haskins is he'll play the Rose Bowl. After the Rose Bowl, he'll make an announcement, hey, I'm staying at The Ohio State University. Let's go ahead and win the playoff next year. That is what I'm expecting. And even though I said the Herbert decision could change it, I still feel like he might stay because he's playing the bowl game. You don't play a bowl game if your mind's in the NFL draft. Look at all the other ones. All the other draft picks that have already decided. They ain't playing that meaningless game. Yep. They're not playing the meaningless game that could get them injured. And once he says, no, I'm coming back, then the trade stuff is all dead. But if he says he's coming out, then it just depends on which team gets that trade to work. And the thing that I'm bringing this in because Brandon asked me, Greeny from ESPN commented on the Herbert decision and said it hurt the Jets. And Brandon's like, I don't get this. How does it hurt the Jets? You brought up the trade thing. This is how it hurts the Jets. The Niners are in front of them. John Lynch has proven he knows how to make deals. He knows how to make deals with teams to make it sure they get who they want and we get what we want, which is future picks either in this year's draft or next year's draft.
Potentially, yeah. And it's just one of these times now where I don't think anyone can trade back at this point because people aren't going to be seeing that top prospect that they're like, yeah, I need to have that guy. Because people are saying that of the prospects here, Bosa's probably the only one that's like that I need to have Bosa. And Arizona's not going to pass on that.
No.
So there you go. It's done. What else you trading up for? And
no, I'm saying if Haskins comes out, they could.
Well, no, I'm comparing it to I think it was 2015 one where teams were calling, teams were saying, "Hey, someone, please, we want to trade back," and everybody was saying, "No, we're good where we're at."
Yeah, that was
nobody was interested in that.
Well, that was the Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota draft,
where no one's interested in trading back at all. Or trading up, I should say. I think this is going to be the exact same. Well, this is a deep draft for a lot of defensive talent. There's a lot of stuff out there. You don't have the quarterbacks. There's no reason for anyone to have any desire to trade up.
Well, and I look at it. I look at this perfectly. Arizona at number 1, they could hit all 3 of their needs with that first-round pick. You take Bosa, get a defensive player.
Yep.
Greedy Williams, get that cornerback you need, or take an offensive lineman. They could get any of those at number 1. It's probably going to be Nick Bosa, though. Then, San Francisco, I don't feel like if they're trading back, it's to try to a team that needs a quarterback trading up. The question with them is 8 or 9, because that's where we're recording this right now. The Jaguars and the Jaguars and the Giants are 8 and 9. Are they going to want to go that far back or just take what they want? The Jets could take what they like. There are all the teams in the top 7 could justifiably take either offensive tackle or defense and be happy with that pick and not have to trade back. The thing that I'm thinking about, and this is the caveat too, is if Haskins returns as well. Herbert is already returning. If Haskins returns, I'll ask you this. Will this be the first draft class that I can remember in my life where no quarterback goes in the first round.
Yeah, in recent drafts.
I can't remember in my lifetime where that has happened.
I'm sure it's happened once in our lifetimes because we're old enough to where we go back before the quarterback driven leagues a little bit, but still pretty much everything's been quarterback driven for the vast majority of our lives too. But we almost had it with the E.J. Manuel draft because Geno Smith, nobody was interested in him. But yeah, I think that if Haskins goes...
Well, the E.J. Manuel draft, we even had E.J. Manuel at 16.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, E.J. Manuel was the only one gone. We thought that maybe we could squeeze...
fell all the way out.
Yeah. If Haskins and Herbert aren't going, I think it's very real that you might not. But I do think that still, the way this league is built, someone's going to want to jump on a quarterback. Somebody gets desperate. But they might all just say, hey, now this is a really big bidding war for Joe Flacco. Now, everybody really, really wants to get Joe Flacco because you know you're not going to get something in the draft or a Tyrod or something like that. You're going to see some teams maybe get desperate. Or what's going to happen is now, since another year is going to go for next year, none of these guys really get their quarterback situation figured out. Maybe someone does with Joe Flacco. But then all of a sudden, now Tampa Bay really does need a quarterback because now it's one more year of Jameis, and are they ready to move on or not? Titans with Mariota, if they're high enough, they might want an upgrade. You got the Big Ben, if Kyle Rudolph is not Kyle Rudolph. I forgot their quarterback's name that they drafted last year.
Which team?
In the third round, the Steelers.
You're talking about Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph, there it is. Maybe they don't feel like they've seen enough out of him, and Big Ben does, in fact, retire. You know, there's just that one extra year. The Saints, if they win a Super Bowl, maybe Big Drew Brees, maybe he retires then in that case. But, you know, it's just one more year. So maybe next year is going to get really, really crowded with a lot of teams really desperate for quarterbacks.
Found it. Okay. So it has happened in our lifetime.
Figured it would.
I was 6, you were 5.
Nice.
Like, the closest we've gotten to it, 1997. You want to hear this draft class, first rounders? Orlando Pace to the Rams, Darrell Russell to the Raiders, Sean Spring to the Seahawks, Peter Boulware to the Ravens, Walter Jones was in that first round, Warwick Dunn, Tony Gonzalez. The first quarterback and the only first rounder, Jim Druckenmiller.
Oh.
Don't even remember who he is. He apparently played for the 49ers. The last time we hadn't had a quarterback, 1996.
Cool.
The top 3-4 picks in that draft class, the first one you may know, a little guy called Keyshawn Johnson.
Oh, nice.
The second guy, a little guy called Kevin Hardy out of Illinois. Another one you should know, defensive end Simeon Rice. And then a little offensive tackle, Jonathan Ogden. Who's another one? Marvin Harrison was in that first round. Terry Glenn, Willie Anderson.
Some good players.
Eddie George, that was Ray Lewis, was at the end of that one. The first quarterback taken in that draft class was Tony Banks to the St. Louis Rams.
Good old Tony Banks.
That was the first quarterback, and he was the only quarterback in the second round. The next one was the third round in Bobby Hoying out of Ohio State. So we could have this in 2018.
I doubt we will. Someone's going to be desperate enough to jump. And it's not like if you get Will Grier or Drew Lock or one of these guys, you're going to be that upset about it.
Well, and here's the thing about it. Take Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Will Grier. Because I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be a clean no quarterback. What I think is going to happen is a team's going to fall in love with one of them. Either Jones, Lock, Grier, and do what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson, do what the Vikings did with Teddy Bridgewater. Whoever is at 32, they're going to say, let's put together a package to move up and get that 5th-year option.
It's possible.
Let's move up. Let's take them in the first round so we get that 5th-year option, and then we have them. Kind of like what the Ravens, like I said, did with Lamar Jackson. Like, that is, to me, that is the only way a quarterback goes in the first round, barring Dwayne Haskins. If Dwayne Haskins comes out, this conversation at the end is moot because obviously we're going to have a first-round quarterback if Dwayne Haskins comes out.
Yeah. And I look at it and I just think that this year is going to probably be a hotter free agent market for not a lot of talent. Some teams are going to be upset, and some teams are just going to be in a holding pattern until next year.
Because you got the Redskins. Like, I mentioned this to Dave when we were out to dinner. You got the Redskins that need a quarterback.
Yep.
Alex Smith broke his leg, had an infection. Colt McCoy broke his leg. So it's like, I don't expect any of those two guys to be ready week 1.
I expect Alex Smith is done. He's gone. And Colt McCoy is not an answer.
Exactly. Like, they need a quarterback now. Like, and that's, to me, is like...
And they're sitting at 16 right now.
Where they weren't going to get one anyway.
Yeah, they weren't going to get somebody. So if for them, they might be sitting there going, hey, look at us. Someone might fall. Because, why not?
Or they might be a team of like, hey, let's trade back. Let's get Will Grier. Let's trade back second round. Let's get some picks and accumulate. But there are other needs that the Redskins could take at 16.
Definitely.
Any final thoughts with this? Anything you think we hadn't touched of how this Justin Herbert decision affects the NFL draft?
For the draft, not necessarily. I think we covered pretty much most of it. The only thing I will say extra is that we might get another one of those fun Jake Locker type of situation, Christian Ponder type of situations, where team drafts a quarterback. All right, 2 years later, team drafts a quarterback.
Oh, man. This year for quarterbacks is going to be interesting to see how this class pans out, especially when now all the eyes go to Dwayne Haskins. It's kind of like, hey, what are you going to do?
Yep.
Are you going to stay or are you going to go? But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in the comment section. How do you feel the Justin Herbert decision affects the NFL draft? Let us know what you guys think down below.